What's up, friends? It is Spicy Monday, and today we're going to talk about something very important and near and dear to my heart, and that is Rule 1, users lie. That's right, talking about the rules of tech support. Let's get into it.
Spicy Monday, time to break it down. MSP talk, ripping off the rails.
So for those that don't know, a long time ago, originally on the subreddit Tales from Tech Support, users started compiling an unofficial list of common themes and commonalities from all of the different posts that were made from Tales from Tech Support. Mostly IT tech support, but not entirely only help desk tech support. So just in general, tech support. In this list over the years, actually I would say now over the decade, has grown to be quite large and has iterated, and we're now in version 3. The reason why we're going to start working through these rules is, well, this list is pretty toxic and pretty hostile, which is funny and goes well with Spicy Monday, but everything on this list is framed in and based around something real. These are not pulled out of the buttholes of angry sysadmins. These are real commonalities between all of these different tales of tech support and frustrating tickets and end users being frustrating. So rule 1, very simple, users lie. It has a few sub-components to it. Rule 1A, it may not be malicious or willful, but rule 1 is always in effect. Rule 1B, users assume you don't know they are lying. Rule 1C, users continue to lie as a result. And Rule 1D, when caught in a lie, users get angry. Now, if you are working, especially in an MSP style support desk, that may upset you a little bit because I just called all of your valuable end users that pay you money liars and imply that the nice little old lady that calls in and gives your team cookies is actually secretly a total piece of shit. And well, that's kind of uncomfortable because lie has such a negative connotation to it. But think critically about this for a minute. Basically, what this rule is saying is that users will consistently and not necessarily intentionally always misrepresent the situation they're in. And that's why this is my most favorite rule. I do know in some organizations that you are going to deal with users that do perform this out of malice, but pretending for a minute that you don't. If you assume that every single person that is calling in, emailing in, chatting in, submitting a ticket has completely misrepresented the situation they're in, that affords you quite a few opportunities as somebody on tech support to actually uncover and think critically before rushing in, because that's really what this actual rule is about. This rule really should say, don't rush in to fix something based only on the first thing the user says to you, because it's often not correct. You'll fix the wrong thing and upset the user. So rule 1, users lie. Importantly, as you break down this rule a little bit, we end up seeing that users assume we don't know they are lying. And that one's important. Of course, in a malicious situation or somebody who claims they unplugged it and plugged it in again and didn't even get out of their chair, that's pretty obvious. They assume we can't tell that, so there's no point in being accurate with us. But remember that in a lot of cases, our end users just sort of assume we already know everything that's going on. Not just in that moment that we understand their job role, their outcome, what they're trying to do, the 5 things they did before. They think we know all of that. And they think we're being pedantic when we ask for it. So they tend to omit a lot of that information and just assume that you already knew they omitted it. Therefore, they assume you don't know they're misrepresenting the situation. You see how that works even when they're not being malicious. And that's important because as we see in Rule 1C, they continue to lie as a result. In other words, they will continue down this path unless we identify that. So it's important early on when you are working with an end user to make it very clear that you are not magically aware of their intended outcome. And so A version I see a lot that I really like that you'll see on some of the other tech support forums is somebody who's really nuanced in triage. Is one of the first things they're going to ask after the user tells them, what they think is wrong is, what problem were you trying to solve, or what were you actually trying to do? And if you cannot get the user to articulate that, there's nothing really for you to fix here until you get them to articulate that, because that's what's going to make clear to both of you that you're not a mind reader and they've left out some information. And the last part, and this is very true, and you always have to be very careful with this in tech support. When caught in a lie, users get angry. Specifically, if a user has actually misrepresented or omitted something when working with you, if you eventually point that out, whether you point it out directly or indirectly, they get annoyed. I get annoyed when that happens. Everybody universally gets annoyed when this happens. No one wants to feel stupid. And when you catch someone in a non-intentional misrepresentation, they feel stupid. And when you catch them in an intentional misrepresentation, they feel stupid for getting caught. And so you have to be really careful to not put your user in a situation where you are immediately calling them out basically on their bullshit. You have to lead that horse to water in a way that always gives them an out, gives them a safe way to exit that situation without feeling dumb. Classic example of this is the, did you unplug it and plug it back in, or did you power cycle it, right? Something that we often have to ask a lot of users in remote support. And we know that some people literally just won't do it because they think it's pointless. They don't want to climb under their desk or walk to the room. And other people don't know how to do it. They don't want to tell you that. And then some people think they've done it, but they haven't done anything. And so it's important to think about how we ask them for the information or the activity to not only prevent them from having to misrepresent it, but to give them a nice, safe way to get out of the situation if they did. So in that case, a great way to do this is, hey, can you go ahead and unplug that box and tell me exactly how many pins are in the back of the power cord, or what shape it is? Or can you unplug it and blow in it and plug it back in? Asking things this way are really helpful because, first of all, it makes it a lot harder to misrepresent an activity if I ask for something specific. Secondly, because we're asking them to do more, it gives them the opportunity to basically cry fatigue and say, I don't really feel comfortable climbing under there and unplugging it and blowing in it. Can you send someone on site? Or, geez, there's too many pins here for me to count, which means they've already looking at the wrong thing. You give them an opportunity to sort of decline out of the situation without having to look stupid. And that's really important. And if in fact they triple down, well, now you know they are now maliciously lying to you, which you can handle differently. Back when I still had an MSP, we had some different flags we would use to classify end users, and one of our flags in our system was Rule 1, and it was specifically attached to any users that had a repeated track record of consistently maliciously or non-maliciously omitting critical information that was necessary to actually support them. And what it said in the system was, this is a Rule 1 user. Please make sure that you attend to their needs with extra detail and care, and verify everything that they ask you to do. See the service manager if you have any questions. It's written in a way where if a client happened to see that, they're not going to be offended. In fact, it may make them feel kind of special. Rule 1, I'm important. But at the same time, indicated to everybody on the team that you got to take a couple extra seconds with this user. They are likely not going to feed you accurate information or trustworthy information. And that's important because, especially if you work where you support other technical people, you are going to have a subset of technical people that think they submit good tickets. They think they're being helpful. They think they have sent the screenshots on the required information, done the pre-diagnosis for you. And when that happens, we often leave out critical info. If you're an MSP and you submit a ticket to a vendor, I'm accusing you of this. You probably do this all the time. You already think you know what's wrong, so you send the vendor everything you think they need to solve what you think is already wrong, in the process omitting a ton of information. You've just now inadvertently fallen afoul of Rule 1, and having a marker in a system that lets me know that, hey, the tech at this company always tries to solve it on their own and submits just a fraction of the data, just right from the beginning, ask them for the rest of the information before proceeding, is really helpful so everyone has a smooth experience and maybe even retrains the client. have the spiciest of Mondays. We'll get into some of the other rules of tech support on future episodes of Spicy Monday. But remember today, folks, rule one, users lie. Stay spicy. Oh, and if you're one of those MSPs that changed it to trust but verify, shut up. Get rid of that. What's wrong with you? We're not Care Bears here. It's not trust but verify. Don't trust but verify. Be clear and honest with your team why that rule exists. Users misrepresent things. It is our job to collect the information necessary to support the user, not the user's job to know what to send us to be supported. If you go to the doctor doesn't ask you to submit your own blood work. Don't be that kind of MSP.